procedures in select committee. That's where we are. That's where we are. Refer the membership to 74. We had looked at 1, 2, and 3, and just so as not to make you think that we are moving slowly, I would just point out that there are 84 standing orders, and we are at number 74, so we are making some progress. All right, 74, we had looked at 1, 2, and 3. I'm instructed by the clerk. 1 says, except as otherwise provided under Standing Order 66, this order shall apply to all select committees. If the chairman is unable to be present, if the chairman is unable to be present at any meeting, the committee shall elect another chairman who shall be there for the day. Unless the Senate otherwise directs, Standing Orders Committee shall not, but every other committee shall have the power to send for persons, papers, and records. Now remember that had caused some discussion the last time? Yes. And we had gotten there, yes. So we're at 4. A select committee shall not have the power to delegate any of its functions to its chairman. That is fairly trite, because if that be the case, then the chairman would be acting as the committee. Unless the Senate otherwise directs, 3 members shall be the quorum. In ascertaining whether there is a quorum, the member in the chair shall not be excluded. Subject to any order of the Senate or resolution of the committee, the sitting of a select committee shall be held in private. Select committees are held in private? What Ms. Brandon, you're shaking your head. What private mean?
So those are in-camera meetings. So generally speaking, select committees meet in the chamber here, and persons from the gallery or PBCJ video recording can show the proceedings. But when meetings are held in camera, it's held privately.
Okay. So there would have to be a direction that the meeting is to be held in camera. Okay.
The committee would make that determination, depending on the subject matter. Depending on the subject matter that they're looking at, the committee can meet in camera. So for instance, the Ethics Committee of the House of Representatives, all its meetings are held in camera.
Senator Sinclair? Senator Sinclair?
I am not reading 6 in the way that was just explained, Mr. Chairman. This seems to be saying that meetings are to be held in private unless otherwise so stated by the Senate or by a resolution of the committee. So I think, but our meetings are not, the meetings are not held in private.
Select.
Huh?
Select.
No.
Select committee.
All right. But
So the standing order is a select committee.
Yes.
Standing order committee is a select committee.
is this a select committee?
Yes, this is not joint. Let's go back to.
Hold on a second. Is this a select committee?
Yes.
But we are not. We don't have our meetings in private.
No, we don't.
Right.
We're operating contrary to the standing order.
So, right. So what I'm saying is that
Senator Sinclair, 1 minute. Our clerk has brought some illumination to the matter. Come.
You're talking this committee right now.
yeah.
And so we would not have had any resolution.
Sorry, Ms. Beckford is going to bring some light to the matter.
Okay, so both standing orders initially had
the same provision, from my understanding. Where
That's the House and the Senate.
from my understanding, when I came here, both of them had the same provision, where the meetings are to be held in private unless otherwise directed. However, sometime in the 1990s, the House Standing Orders Committee took a decision that they wanted to open up particularly their select committees, so they amended their standing orders. But a similar amendment was not made by the Senate.
So what is their
Because,
amendment?
because, Mr. Chair, I am certain that when we were meeting whilst I was occupying that chair, we weren't going public.
We are no, though.
Huh?
I think we are no.
I think we are now. What- Yeah.
So the amendment to the House Standing Orders at 77
Practices from the House of
6
Representatives
says,
without-
subject to any order of the House or resolution of the committee, the sittings of a select committee shall be held in public.
That is how it should be.
Okay.
So Chairman, they would have made the amendment and started the practice. It so happened that the practice would have transcended here without an amendment. And so if we weren't going through the standing orders, if we weren't going through the standing orders, we wouldn't have identified that glaring breach.
So do I assume then that we can adopt the provision from the House Standing Orders?
Well, it has caused no challenge,
That's caused no harm.
and it has been working. So I don't see why not.
Once you talk, you don't have to turn off your mic, you know. At committee here, you can just.
Yeah, but that will prevent me from whispering.
Fraser Binns, what do you have to say?
Chairman, I just wondered whether we wanted to open it in, for like the Privileges Committee, whether that's a committee, because when we look at the...
Remember it says, you know, subject to an order. So what is happening now is that everything is in private,
Exactly.
subject to an order.
I'm responding
What
to
we
the
are
question
saying,
you
it's
asked.
going to be public, subject to an order.
Yes, and I'm responding to the question you asked in terms of whether we want to adopt the provision in the lower house, and I'm saying that I'm wondering whether we want to adopt it to include the Privileges Committee, because my view is that that committee ought to be held in private.
Yes,
That
I agree.
particular committee.
I agree with Senator
But,
Fraser.
but
Well,
what,
you can.
if you listen. Yes, yes. So once there is a decision taken by the Senate that the particular meets in camera, then it will. So that option is there. I don't think we have to specify the committees that. So just read the amendment. Or give it to me. Let me read it. So this is what we are proposing to adopt, right? And it's actually 6 as well. Subject to any order of the House or resolution of the committee. So you see, both the House and the committee can make the determination. Sittings of a select committee shall be held in public. So that would answer Senator Fraser Binns' issue concerning privilege and... What was the other one you had concerned about?
No, that was it.
She had said privilege and
Privilege.
you said...
I didn't say anything otherwise. I was agreeing with
Privilege, yeah.
her that we
So-
would have
so
to
can I have an
exercise
agreement?
caution with the privilege one.
Yes, yes. So what it would read is this. Subject to any order of the Senate or resolution of the committee, the sitting of a select committee shall be held in public. Agreed with that? Thank you very much, Inspector, for that. And you move to 7. The deliberations of a select committee shall be confined to the matter referred to it by the Senate, and any extension or limitation thereof made by the Senate and in the case of a select committee on a bill, to the bill committed to it and relevant amendments. That seemed pretty clear to me. 8A, the first meeting of a select committee shall be held at such time and place as the chairman, in the case of a sessional select committee, or the president, in the case of a special select committee, shall appoint. Subsequent meetings shall be held at such time and place as the committee may determine, no issue, provided that if the committee fail or do so, the chairman shall, in consultation with the clerk of the committee, appoint time and place.
Fail to do so.
Eh?
Fail to do so.
Provided the committee fail to do so. We'll leave out that part, eh?
Fail or so.
Oh. Thank you, Senator Gale.
Before we move on,
Eh?
before we move on, Mr. Chairman, we had a discussion in relation to stipulating that all the committees should meet at least once, at the very least once in a year, in each year. And that is where we could consider making an amendment to 8 with the proper word.
Suggest the amendment there, Senator Sinclair. What you are saying is that every select committee of the Senate ought to meet once a year?
At least.
Is it once a year or once a term? What you call it?
Okay. But in the year, the parliamentary year is like February to February. Yeah. All right.
But Chair, Senator Sinclair would be citing that under this particular select committee. But if you are speaking of all committees.
But Senator Gale, we not can do it at make a 10. We have to do
Exactly.
it here, so.
Make a particular clause referring that.
Yeah, so we can when we reach it when we finish 9, we can bill it after 9.
After 9.
Yeah.
The word place.
Want to know if it says provided that if the committee fail, and that stand, shouldn't it be if the committee fails? Isn't it one committee we're referring to?
Yes.
Yes. Provided that if the committee fails to do so. Correct. Top of the class.
But this is where I would probably put in what I had just said, Mr. Chairman, right?
Okay.
At that point, to say that sessional select committees shall have at least one meeting in each parliamentary year. And then you can go on to say, provided that if the on a date to be determined by the chairman or the appropriate chairman, provided that if the committee shall fail to do so, the chairman shall, in consultation with the clerk, appoint such time and place.
I get what you are saying. So what you are proposing is that every select committee of the Senate shall meet at least once in each parliamentary year. Once at least parliamentary year.
Sessional
Committee.
So that would come in my mind in 66.
In 66?
Yes, because 66 is speaking to sessional select committee.
Yes, but 66 is just identifying the existence of the committee.
Yes.
But we're dealing with the procedures and the meeting times in relation to the committees, which is in 74.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
But procedures in select committees.
Ms. Brandon wants to make a point. Go ahead, Ms. Brandon.
74.
Okay, so further to the suggestion made by Senator Sinclair, the committee has to take into consideration 74.7, which states that the deliberations of a select committee shall be confined to the matter referred to it by the Senate. So if it is that we're going to place something in the standing orders indicating that a select committee has to meet at
Sessional
least
select-
once per session, then if a matter is not referred to the committee, it won't meet. But then again, based on what Senator Sinclair is saying, is that the select committee shall meet at least one time per session.
All right, can I ask a question? The 7 that speaks to the deliberations of a select committee. No, is that I am referring to the sessional select committees. Is that the same? It's just that I left out sessional in 7?
Ms. Brandon, don't turn off, like, when you're contributing, don't turn off the mic.
Chairman,
It don't matter, them can stay on, you know.
No, but in 8.
One person needs to turn off. Kevin, turn up.
So all right, so this section of the standing orders is making reference to select committees.
All
so even
types.
sessional select committees would fall under
Correct.
select committees. So if based on what Senator Sinclair is saying, consideration has to be made to 74-7.
Chairman
I understand. What
No.
what Miss
Brandon.
Brandon is saying, you know, is that the only way that the meeting can be called is if something is referred from the Senate. What Ms. Brandon is saying, if you look at 7, the only way the deliberation shall be confined to the matter referred to it by the Senate. And she's saying that if something is not referred, but that's not necessarily so, because you can meet by way of form. You don't have to, in other words, you don't have to meet to deliberate something sent by, I'm running myself into a
Or
corner.
Chairman, the committee could consider amending 74-7 because you have instances, not necessarily for the Senate committees, but I know for the House committees, you have where the committee determines the agenda.
Challenge I'm having is that we're speaking about having a meeting of a select committee on a matter referred to it by the Senate. So you have to define a matter and give the Senate the instructions that you need to meet. As opposed to what Senator Sinclair is suggesting, that all these committees must meet as a priority. If it's even once a year, if it's even to say we're meeting for a new senator who has been appointed on the committee to understand what the committee is all about. And so that's why I'm having the difficulty in inserting that into 7, where 7 is suggesting that the Senate must indicate why you should meet. In other words, it's waiting for the Senate to give instructions. Yes, but if that doesn't arise, then there's going to be no meeting.
Chairman,
No, but
Chairman,
is the sessional select committee?
Oh, you're fine. Oh, you're fine on the matter referred
That's
to
the
it
first
by
question.
the Senate.
can amend 7 if there's a problem, you know, or as
select
provided
committee,
herein.
are they the
Chairman,
Are
I've
they
been
one
trying
and the
to raise an issue. Sophia. Do I not sound like myself today, Chairman?
The sessional committee is
Chairman, 2 things. One is, I believe that the discussion about the mandatory meeting once per parliamentary year, Senator Gale, you may recall, came about when we were talking about the Senate committee and trying to determine who the members are. And I think it was Longmore who made that recommendation. So I have two proposals, Chairman. One is that the amendment that we all agree to is better placed at 66-4, because our concern, and rightly so, was with the Sessional Select Committee, specifically the Senate Committee. So I think the amendment should be placed at, they should create a subsection 4, so it will be 66-4, to say that the committee should meet once per year. The other proposal I have is at 7.
Don't come off that yet, because that could be easily done, because it can even be included in 3. Subject to the provisions of 70, a sessional select committee shall consist of not less than 6, including the chairman, none of whom shall be a minister, and
shall meet at least once every parliamentary year.
At least once every parliamentary year.
Yes. It rubs off.
Mr. Cowan, you wanted to say
Starting
something?
from Donna, come down.
Yes, Chairman, and I think it was somewhat addressed, or in a way, by Senator Fraser-Binns. But in terms of the contribution made by Ms. Brandon, I was wondering if there was a way to kind of reconcile the two positions with the insertion of another provision which would essentially mandate that the Senate refer at least once per year such matter to enable the meeting of every select committee.
No,
Yeah, that's what I'm
Mr.
saying.
Chairman. All right, hold on a second. Mr. Chairman, what I'm saying, if you look in 8, 8 refers to the first meeting of a select committee shall be held at such time and place.
Look at what? Look at what?
I'm just going back to 74, 8. The first meeting of a select committee shall be held at such time and place as the chairman, in the case of a sessional select committee, or the president in the case of a special select committee. So the committees that will require a mandatory meeting at least once in the parliamentary year is really just a sessional committee. If we move it into 66, as proposed by Senator Fraser-Binns, then you're going to have to extend it, because in the event that the chairman of that sessional committee does not call a meeting, then the proviso which says, provide that if the committee failed to do so, the chairman, should that be the chairman or the president? Or be the president? If the chairman does not act, yes, suppose the person who is chair of the sessional committee does not have the mandatory meeting, you don't see that forthcoming, then the president should be able to so direct that the chairman has that meeting. So I'm just saying, if we went back to put it in 66 as suggested by Senator Fraser-Binns, we may have to do a more extensive amendment to include the proviso. If the chairman does not act, then the president can.
As a safeguard.
Yeah. So that's why I was saying the best place to put it would be somewhere in 8. In 8, the same 8. But make reference to it being the sessional select committee. Because 7 refers to, pardon me? Yes, the proviso may have to be amended.
Chairman, just to follow up on what Senator Sinclair is saying, if we're going to limit that proposal to sessional, if we're going to limit that proposal to the sessional select committee, it would be best placed at Standing Order 66.
All right.
But if it is that you want for all select committees, which would include joint select, special select committee, then it would be 74, my apologies.
Just that if you put it in 66, you still have to put in a safeguard that in the event that the chairman does not convene the sessional select committee, then the president would have to have the option to so direct in consultation with the clerk of the committee to find an appointed day for the mandated meeting to be
The Senate and not the President. That will be the Senate.
the Senate.
The Senate.
Okay, well, Senate
I guess
president.
in this case, it should have been the chairman in the case of special select committee, because it won't be the president that mandates the first meeting of a special select committee. It will be the chairman.
Yes, so I'm focusing on the sessional select committees. That's where my focus is. So the requirement for the mandatory meeting is only in relation to the sessional select committees and nothing more. The question is, where do we put it? 66, or do we make an
It would be best
amendment
placed
somewhere
at
in
66,
74?
as suggested by Senator Fraser Binns.
And I'm saying if we are going to put it in 66, then there must be a proviso that is there. So it can, I'm not going to make much of that. If it were put it in 66, it has to be a little more than what was proposed by Senator Fraser Binns, so that there is an almost oversight, whether it is the president that is going to say to the chair, look here, you have not had your meeting must be held.
Okay, duly noted.
So we have to have a recommittal to 66 for the
There is
amendment.
a decision that we want the sessional committees to meet at least once a year. I think that that's a good idea, because it gives the meeting, it gives us the opportunity to meet and perhaps thrash out what the purpose of the committee is, and like everything else, it might find work for itself. Senator Golden Campbell. So having made that decision, then we look at where we are going to put it. Fraser Binns suggests, Sinclair agree, Ms. Brandon agree, 66. But you need a provision that goes on further, not only to say that that is a requirement, but it goes on further to say if it's not done, then you're giving the president authority to direct that the meeting be held.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah. Okay. Senator Golden Campbell.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Apologies. Can I go a little further than simply giving the president authority in the event that the sessional select committee does not meet, that the president be mandated to call the meeting, so that if they don't meet, the president shall appoint a day for them to meet. And I am thinking now of the dynamics between the majority and the minority in the parliament in relation to that.
These select committees, A to D, are specific to the Senate. But E is the caucus of women parliamentarians, whilst having members consisting of members of the Senate. I would guard against you being the president to be instructing those members that are not consistent to this place in that regard. Because you have no control over members of the House of Representatives. And this E includes women parliamentarians who are outside of this remit. So I would like to see you to be able to do that with all your awesome authority.
It could be,
But that's
for
not
that
an
it
issue
could be
because
in
you just-
consultation.
In consultation, so we have to be careful in terms of
Speaker.
the use of the terms that we are going to insert to give
So
such
it's
instructions.
like how time running on us here now. I'm going to ask Ms. Brandon in consultation with the legal officers, and the clerk just come up with something for us for next week.
A quick comment
Because
on
you
that.
hear what is happening here now, that there is an issue in relation to the women's caucus.
No, Mr. Chairman, I would say that it could go there still, but it is done, that in respect to that committee, it is done in consultation with the speaker, president and speaker. And that may be a discussion you'll have to have with the lower house, because I think I heard there was some discussion that took place in respect to the standing orders of the lower house, that they were going to be undertaking a review of their standing orders. Pardon me? I So we can make a specific provision in relation to that, but you can have dialogue with the speaker, because there, wasn't it said the other day, Mr. Cohen, Madam Clerk, that they were going to be having a look at their standing orders? That would be something that we could have them put on the agenda in respect to amending theirs, that it becomes consistent with our proposed amendment for the Women's Caucus, that the mandated meeting would be a date that would be determined by the president in consultation, and in theirs by the speaker in consultation with the president.
Or what the committee could do is to make an exception for the caucus of women parliamentarians.
And leave that out.
And leave that out.
But I am certain the fight, well, let me not use that term.
Mr. Chair.
The discussions that went on to bring about that sessional committee, I don't think we should leave it out. It should be put in both, because I got a distinct impression from the debate that took place here, the discussions that were out there, and the debate that took place in relation to the establishment of the Women's Caucus, that it was something that was considered by all to be significant, and it should not be left out. Right?
Yeah. If
Mr.
I
Chair.
may,
Mr. Chair, I stand corrected, but I have not seen in the standing orders of the Senate anything that has ever bind the president to having dialogue, consultation with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and I am very cautious of such accommodation as stipulated by Senator Charles.
So you're against the bicameral Women's Caucus? I ask that because if it is a bicameral, there must be some dialogue somewhere in relation to the engagement of that caucus.
Yeah, but it has not been included in the standing orders to date.
What has not been?
Yes, there has been. It is a bicameral legislature, but I mean, those discussions have been done behind the scenes rather than stipulated in the standing orders.
if I may, Mr. Chair, I beg to respectfully agree with Ms. Brandon's contribution, where that the caucus of women parliamentarians may be necessary to be treated separately. Looking at that standing order, which is 70A, it speaks to the membership. So 70A 1A speaks to the membership and says that the caucus of women parliamentarians shall consist of female members of the Senate to sit jointly with female members of the House of Representatives. 70A 1B says that the caucus shall elect its own chair. It therefore means then that the selection of who is supposed to lead that committee, it is to be determined by the members of that committee. So certainly we would have to tread carefully in making a general provision for select committees and who is to chair and how that process is to be, how it is to commence. With regard to, and this is a second contribution I'd like to make, with regard to the issue as to whether to place or to amend 66 to incorporate at least one meeting in the parliamentary year to ensure that we are not conflicting with Standing Order 74-7, I'd put a proviso there to say subject to any amendment that may be made in 66, in Standing Order 66. So if it is going to be Standing Order 66-3 that is amended, or there is an insertion of a new subcategory 4, then Standing Order 74-7 would have to be amended to reflect that it is subject to that general provision that may be found in Standing Order 66. Those are the two contributions I'd like to make.
I want to ask one question. Can I ask a question?
I'll yield to...
Oh, no, you go ahead. I didn't see that.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll yield.
Take off your mic. Okay, it's okay.
I just wanted to ask Council, the deliberations, the word, it starts with the deliberations. Does that make a difference to convening a meeting? Because when I read it, I understood that it was the deliberations which should be confined to the matter and to any specific bill. Is that a different thought from what we are trying to do in 66, which is the convening of the meeting? Just for my own clarity.
I think it would be, though separate, one affects the other. You may want to set a mandatory provision for meetings to be held. However, 74-7 is saying what that meeting should be held to do. So though they are separate issues, one would be forming a meeting or raising or commencing a meeting rather, and the other is what are you commencing the meeting to speak about. So if it is that it is being mandated that you are to meet, we must have an understanding what we're going to meet to do. For that reason, if we are imposing that there should be at least one meeting in a parliamentary year, 74-7 must have a proviso to say that subject to this mandatory imposition that a meeting should be called. The deliberations, I'm not sure if it is that when you meet, there is going to be an agenda that is definitely coming from the Senate to say you should discuss this item.
But there are terms of reference.
But really what we are trying to achieve is that what we're trying to achieve is that we need not wait for the Senate to send a matter to the committee. That the committee ought to convene, either to discuss the membership or for the members to understand what their terms of reference are. For the simple purpose, how this started was that the composition of a committee was raised and members could not even recall that there were members. And we thought that there should be some kind of provision where we should have at least one meeting. It might be housekeeping, it might be procedural, so that it might be to introduce each other, sorry. So this is what I'm trying to say. Bearing in mind what the objective is very important to how we frame the standing order.
And I'd completely agree. I believe that it is for that reason, I think our ideas are aligned in that it is for that very reason as to why I believe that a proviso needs to be at 74-7, because 74-7 as it is read now restricts those meetings to whatever is referred to it by the Senate. So the proviso is necessary there. Perfect.
Senator Sapphire.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just making a request. It was something that I had thought of from before when we were contemplating the formation of the bicameral committee. And because of the uniqueness of this one in particular with women parliamentarians, is it possible, perhaps for just my edification and those who else might benefit, that we get a synopsis or a review as to the functioning, especially the procedural functioning of a bicameral committee? How does the communication happen between the houses in terms of, so let's say a matter arises in one space, how it is conveyed, etc. I think maybe if we know what we have existing, we will best know how to adjust these various matters.
Thank you very much, Legal Counsel. You could do that for us. And also, between Ms. Brandon and yourself, you'll give us a proposal for the amendment for next week. Thank you very much. It's 10:10. This sitting of the Standing Orders Committee of the Senate is adjourned for a date to be fixed. Thank you very much, members, for the very interesting debate.
Jamaica's budget is more than just numbers. It reveals our biggest problems and goals, our plans to fix them, and what to prioritize. We can even call it a promise book of what will be done to improve our lives. Now, let's talk about the 4 stages of the budget cycle so we can understand how it works and get involved. Stage 1, planning and review. The Ministry of Finance sends out a budget call to every ministry, which outlines the priorities and constraints to guide how those ministries prepare their budget. After ministries submit their drafts, the Finance Ministry reviews, compiles, and sends them to Cabinet for review and approval. Stage 2, parliamentary debate and approval. The Finance Minister tables all budget documents in the House of Representatives.